If we were standing in your physical shoes, we would decide to be lazy for a little while. Because in your giving yourself permission to be lazy, you're giving yourself permission to allow your grid to fill in with everything that you've already chosen and put into your vortex. The word lazy has an unpleasant connotation, doesn't it? Because it's humans measuring themselves against other humans based upon a flawed premise. And the flawed premise is, the more you do, the more you're worth. And that is the most flawed of all flawed premises. I'd like to give you the premise that is at the basis of your universe. The better you feel, the more you allow. You could not be more deserving. You came as deserving beings into this time-space reality with powerful and clear intent. You've been mixing it up with others and defining what's important, not only to you personally, but important to you on behalf of others. You've included in your vortex the well-being of many others. In some cases, mass consciousness. In some cases, a community. In some cases, a family. But you've included in your vortex a desire for the well-being of far more than your personal self. But it is necessary for you to tend to the well-being of your personal self in order to be a productive advocate for the well-being for anyone else. In other words, you cannot give, or you cannot extend, or you cannot punctuate, or you cannot accentuate, you cannot assist anything that you are not already feeling. Which means, if you are wanting in an altruistic way to be of advantage to everyone you know, you first have got to find a way to be of advantage to yourself. Which means you want to carve out more time to be nicer to yourself. More private time. More time under the bridge. More time where others are not telling you what to do. More time when you are satisfying your own personal intention for things. If we were standing in your physical shoes and someone were to ask you to do something, we would stop in the middle of the request and we would evaluate it completely, and we would say to them, I sincerely desire to accomplish this request that you are offering. And it is my expectation that I will be able to do that since I am in this relationship with you and you are requesting it of me, employer or mate or parent or child or whoever it is. It is my expectation that I will be able to accomplish this. I just have to insert one thing in the foreground of this request. I will accomplish it for you as long as I can first accomplish ease for myself in the process. I really want you to ponder that a little bit. If we were standing in your physical shoes, we would do these things every day and then anything else that you have time for. We would meditate for 15 minutes every day, which means we would quiet our mind with the simple intention of allowing our cork to float. We would go outside no matter what the weather, and we'd move around in it in appreciation of this planet. We would look up and around, and we would find things to acknowledge, and we would talk about them right out loud. So, first thing, meditate. Second thing, spend more time outside. Third thing, we would buy a notebook. We would call it My Book of Positive Aspects. And we would fill at least 3, 4, 5 is even better, pages of positive aspects. 5 different subjects, and write the positive aspects of it. And then there is one last thing that if we were standing in your physical shoes, we would do every single day. We would look upward and outward. It's best if you do it outside or standing at a window. And we would acknowledge that there are universal forces that are focused right at you. We would acknowledge by calling it by name, if you have a name that you like. And we would say, I acknowledge that I am the object of your positive attention, and I'm appreciating your continual gaze on behalf of my well-being. And today, no matter where I am, no matter where I am going, no matter what I am doing, and no matter who I am doing it with, I will be in conscious awareness that you too are there with me, appreciating me, supporting me, assisting me, acknowledging me, inspiring me. Get into an endless loop of that acknowledgement and watch what begins to happen in your life as soon as this day. Your vortex is filled to the brim with specific requests that you have put there and that you are deserving of the realization of. And it's time for those realizations to be flooding into your experience at a rate that will astonish those who surround you. It's time for you to remember what you've put there and to bring it forward active into your today experience. Sometimes you will form a question from a place of some resistance. The vibration of a question and the vibration of an answer are very different vibrations, just like the vibration of a problem and the vibration of a solution. And so sometimes you come with an intention to ask about something, but then you get into the receiving mode and then you can't find the question because you're in a different vibrational place. Life just looks different to you when you're feeling good than when you're not feeling good. We believe that as a result of this conversation today, that you have allowed us to help you put the emphasis on vibration rather than anything else. The other day, Esther was watching Kate and Luke, her grandchildren, and she was, like the friend before, she was feeling a little envy about how much physical life in these bodies that they still have ahead of them. She was sort of counting her logical years and their logical years, and she was wishing that she had, knowing what she now knows, she was wishing that she had their logical years. And it didn't feel good to her as she had that thought. And once she settled down a little bit, we said to her, Esther, you know, you and these kids have exactly the same now, which means you can tune into this true current and feel the fullness of your now, or you can pinch yourself off for some unnecessary reason. The more of your nows that you plug your toaster in, then the more years you're going to be making toast. You see what we're getting at? And in that way, you are exactly equal. Everyone has the same opportunity right now to allow alignment or to disallow alignment. And if your habit, if your quest, and then your habit, and then your successful habit is to allow alignment, then those thoughts really fall by the wayside. You begin to understand that everyone has the same advantage or disadvantage, and it is all self-applied. It's about how much right now, in this moment, am I, through my thought process, allowing the fullness of who I am to be present. And the more you practice it and the more you allow the fullness of who you are to be present, then the more you have fun, the more agile and flexible you feel, the more resilient you are, the more energy you have, the more life you have to enjoy. Do you understand that you couldn't have a struggle if you weren't pulling back against the inevitable that your inner being knows? Ooh, don't you like knowing that? So you're on the end of this tug of war, and it's a struggle. But it wouldn't be if your inner being weren't trying to pull you in the direction of who you really are. So if you'll let go of the rope, your inner being will take you right to everything that you've asked for. You could stop the struggle right now. You're the only one struggling. You, in your humandom, are the only aspect of you that is struggling. Certainly you do have thoughts that are running in the background. We're not saying that that is not true. But for something to be a big enough player, for it to be hindering you, means you have to be feeling emotion around it. So if it is so subconscious or unconscious that you're not feeling anything around it, then it's not a big enough player to be affecting your experience at all. Don't you like knowing that? It isn't that there are subconscious or unconscious thoughts that are hindering you that you just don't know about. It's that you're willing to put up with thoughts that feel negative. That's what's going on. You're willing to put up with thoughts that don't feel good. Esther catches herself in one every now and again, every day. In other words, you can't live life without seeing something that you have a somewhat response to. But these days, as she has a response to it, she will say to herself, well, that was unnecessary. That was unnecessary. And just acknowledging that it didn't feel good, and therefore that she would like to make a better feeling choice, helps her to make a better feeling choice at earlier stages, so that the momentum doesn't carry her more into thoughts that then she can't control, that she needs a good night's sleep or a nice solid meditation or something to change the trajectory of the thought. Rather than saying, I have a very tough mind that sometimes works against me, say instead, maybe if it feels better, I am a very good focuser. I'm a good focuser. And what I focus on, I allow the momentum to grow until that focus carries me. But I could choose what I focus upon more carefully. And then follow it up by saying, this will really help you a lot. In every moment that I am focused, my inner being is focused on the same thing with me. So you meet someone just now after our conversation. Esther met yet another person in the kitchen who was insistent that she shouldn't be there. She caught Esther just as she was going in the door, and she said in a very commanding voice, you're not allowed in there. And Esther said, well, I've talked to several people who have been allowing me, and so this is my last trip through. And she said, I'll go get my boss. So Esther stood there because she didn't want to disobey this woman who was not having any of her. And so she stood there, and this woman went and got her boss, who took Esther by the hand and said, I already told her it was okay. And Esther thought to herself, well, she didn't know. She didn't know. Esther had a very good opportunity to feel annoyed at this person who was just doing what her job really was. Or she had the option of giving that person the benefit of the doubt. So it always feels better to give someone the benefit of the doubt. And the reason that we tell you this long story is because we want you to give yourself the benefit of the doubt. You don't believe anything that you haven't worked hard to come to a belief about. And you want to believe that the beliefs that you have gathered from life are valid beliefs. And many of the beliefs that you've gathered from life are valid and also helpful beliefs. Esther argued with us in the beginning, but Abraham, it's true. It's true, so shouldn't I think about it? And we said, Esther, there are a lot of things that are true that you don't want to be true in your experience. The fact that they're true just means somebody else used their powerful mind to focus upon them until they became a reality. So you want to use a different criteria, not is it true, but is it something that I want to experience? And if it is something that you want to experience, then give it your undivided attention. But if it is not something that you'd want to experience, then do your best to distract yourself in some way. That really is the easy mindset about anything.
I'll give you an example of a belief that I don't think is working for me, which is why I'm so thankful that I discovered you and this whole concept of law of attraction.
Well, if you think a belief isn't working for you, speaking it again is only going to stack another engine on that end of the train. If you have a hint that it's not working for you, then not thinking it is what you want to do. So can you pivot and find the other end of it? Or is there so much momentum that you just got to tell it in the momentum that isn't serving you? Well, so we have some questions for you. Do you believe that your inner being exists?
Yes.
And do you believe that through life that you have gathered some clear desires?
Yes.
And do you believe that your inner being is a vibrational match to those desires?
Yes.
Do you believe that there is a path to what you want?
Absolutely.
Do you believe that your inner being has a clearer view of that path to what you want?
Yes.
Do you believe that if you were in more steady, constant is too strong a word, but more steady connection with your inner being, that your inner being could lead you to more of the things that you want?
Yes, I do.
And do you believe that feeling good is the path to that connection that will lead you to more of the things that you want?
Yes.
Do you believe that you hold some beliefs that don't help you?
Definitely.
Do you believe that your inner being holds those same beliefs?
No.
And how do you know the difference between a belief that you hold that doesn't help and the belief that your inner being holds about the same subject? How do you know?
I feel terrible.
So when you feel negative emotion, what's the first thing that it tells you? Your inner being isn't seeing it that way.
Mm-hmm.
So when you speak these things that feel uncomfortable when you say them, if you would say, clearly my inner being doesn't see it this way. Hey, inner being, how is it that you see it? Eventually, if you ask that question often enough, you'll start getting glimpses into how your inner being sees it. That's the whole turning thoughts to things process. It's a lovely thing when self-doubt begins to fall by the wayside. It's a lovely thing when you just begin to love yourself without evidence of being loved. And you know, when you're looking to other people, most other people need you to show them evidence before they will agree with you that you are wonderful. Now, there are exceptions to that. Your mother didn't feel that way in the beginning. And your new lover, not the one you've had for a while, but your new lover feels that way about you. And your inner being feels that way. Your inner being adores who you are in relationship to who you are. Because your inner being knows that being critical of you would only drive you away from who you want to be. And yet you all think that when you are critical of you, that somehow that's going to get you closer to what you want. We think that you've been taking too many motivational courses and not enough inspirational courses. Esther will say every now and again, I really shine in a crisis. And we say that's because the crisis causes you to focus. And when you focus, you gather the energy that creates worlds as assistance, you see. Isn't it nice how life keeps presenting more to you, so that your idea of what you prefer continues to evolve? You recognize that? Do you think that you are doing a pretty good job of vibrationally staying up to speed with your desires? Or are there gaps between what you want and what you expect? You know how you can tell? 2 ways. How satisfied you are along the way. If you are not resisting the evolution of your own desire, you feel satisfaction even if it has not manifested. And the other way is how long it takes. If there are things that you've wanted, or if there is something that you've wanted for a long time, and it continues to not manifest in the fullness in the way you want it to, well, then that is an indication that your habit of thought is contradicting your own desire. And it's easy to understand why that would be so, because so often you are giving your fullest attention to what has already manifested, to what you want to say what is, to the current situation. So if you want more money but you don't have enough, and your attention is always upon, or usually upon, how much you've got or how much you haven't got, then you may have a vibrational tendency that is actually pushing against what your desire is. So there's a discord, a resistance within your vibration. And even though law of attraction is responding to your desire as you are emanating it through thought, law of attraction is also responding to your patterns of thought that you would call belief or expectation. You do get what you think about, whether you want it or not. That's really a simple way of describing how law of attraction works. But in order to really fine-tune this business of deliberate creating, and after all, it's only deliberate creating that is truly satisfying. It's only when you do it on purpose, so that you're able to pay attention and even measure the satisfaction factor as your desire in its vibrational, or what you may want to call thought form, evolves into the see it, hear it, smell it, taste it, touch it version. In other words, there is a gestation process. There is a process of becoming. And the amount of time that it takes from the inception of an idea, you might call it that, and its full fruition really is about what you are doing. And it is really only about what you are doing with your thoughts. Now, a lot of times you don't feel that it is fair for you to have to take responsibility for what you are doing with your thoughts. In the early stages, Esther would say, but Abraham, it's true. It's true, as if something that is true or something that is really happening deserves a lot of attention. And we said to her, just because it is true would not be our criteria for giving our attention to it, because there are a lot of things that are true. People have manifested them or are manifesting them. Even you may be manifesting them that you don't want to continue to manifest. And so if there is something that you want not to experience, you must withdraw your attention from it. And if there is something that you want to experience, you must give your attention to it. But what trips you up sometimes is that you think you are thinking about what you want, when what's really going on is you're thinking about its absence, because you think the subject is enough. In other words, if I want more money and I'm thinking about money, then shouldn't more money be coming to me? And we say, the way you can tell whether you are on the vibrational end of the stick where abundance is, or whether you're on the vibrational end of the stick where lack of abundance is by the way you feel when you're having thought. If you are feeling discomfort, you're not thinking about abundance, you're thinking about the absence of abundance. And the more you do that, the more you sort of set into stone. It isn't that way at all, but the more you create a habit of thought. That's what a belief is. A belief is just a thought that you continue to think. And the reason that you continue to think it is because you've already been thinking it. And the reason that you've already been thinking it and you're continuing to think it is because law of attraction is making that thought that you've already been thinking, that you continue to think, more accessible to you to think. So in the early days, Esther said, well, then law of attraction is sort of broken, don't you think? Don't you think that the things that we really want should be more accessible, and the things that we don't want so much should be less accessible? And we said, really, that's exactly the way that it is. And Esther said, well, then why don't I know that? And we said, because you're not paying attention to how you feel when you're thinking the thoughts. So over time, we've been breaking it down for you to understand a little more fully by explaining to you that you were source energy before you came into this body, and the larger part of you still is. Now, if you can accept that, then everything else you hear today will be easy for you to understand. There's a non-physical part of you. Sometimes humans have referred to that part of you as your soul, but it's the eternal part of you who was there before you came into this body and is still there even though you are in this body. Is a part of you who is aware of everything that you're thinking about while you're in this body. So just sit with that for a minute. Here's this non-physical you, and you are an extension of that. So here you are, the extended version of you, the leading edge in this time and space version of you, and you are doing just what you said you would do. You are exploring the variety, and as you explore the variety, you come to your own preferences, whether you're even consciously aware that you're doing it or not, of what you prefer and what you do not prefer. And every time you find, importantly, your personal preference of something, you emanate a vibration. We've been calling them rockets of desire, but you emanate a signal that says, I prefer this. And your inner being, who is always aware of you, becomes a vibrational match to that new and amended, because of the life you just lived, version of your desires. So each time you seek and find a new preference for yourself, the non-physical part of you, the inner being part of you, the soul source energy part of you, becomes the expanded, amended, evolved, improved vibrational version of that. And that's what we refer to as your ever changing and ever growing and ever expanding and ever becoming desires. In other words, that's what the evolution of all species is about. So you know what you don't want, which causes you to know what you do want, and you emanate this rocket of desire. And that is what we've been referring to as step 1 of the creative process. Step 2 is, now that you've emanated this rocket of desire, your inner being holds that newly found, discovered by you, vibration right as you have offered it, and law of attraction causes a melding of all that you've asked for together in what we are calling a vibrational reality. Now, humans are often a little resistant to this vibrational reality because most of you are not able to translate it at first into anything that feels real to you, because you can't see the vibrations or hear them or smell them or taste them or touch them. So you want to call what's already manifested reality, and you want to call this Abraham's delusion or something. But what it is, it's a vibrational version. It is, from our point of view, what really is. It's the new and improved asking. It's where source energy puts all of its attention. It is what is in the state of becoming. And if you could find a way, and we'll show you today how to do it, if you could find a way to be focused upon this vibrational reality, you would feel satisfaction even though it hasn't fully manifested. And in fact, unless you find satisfaction in the not yet fully evolved, so that you can see it and hear it and smell it and taste it and touch it version of it, unless you do find satisfaction in that, you are likely to begin, in your awareness of the absence yet of what feels like the real reality to you, you are likely, most of you do it, to push against it without even knowing you are, by noticing that it hasn't happened yet. Because you can't focus upon the becoming of something and the absence of something at the same time. In other words, it's one or the other. And so because you are so enamored, and we understand why you would, this is a beautiful environment. Seeing and hearing and smelling and tasting and touching is the leading edge. It's what you have come for. It is perfect that you want your thoughts to turn to things. It's perfect. That's what this time-space reality really is all about for you. But if you get out there ahead of your vibrational capacity to allow, then you often defeat your own purpose by taking score too soon and then offering a vibration that slows it down rather than allows it in. So step 1 is you ask. Step 2 is source yields it to you in vibrational form. And step 3 is You must be in the receiving mode so that you can be the translator of the vibrational form into the tangible form. That's how creation works, you see. So it's not a difficult thing to understand, really. You got it just now. It is something that you have to practice doing, and the only reason that it gives you any difficulty at all is because you are so accustomed to enjoying your reality that you are translating through your physical senses. What you see with your eyes is a translation of vibration, and we know it's wonderful. Esther said to us the other day, Abraham, I hear you. I've been hearing you. I've been listening to everything that you've said from the beginning of the beginning of the beginning. I hear you. I get this. I think I get this, she said. But I would like you to know that as much as you are excited about my vortex and all of the wonderful things that are in it, and as often as you direct me to its content and ask me to be excited like you are about it, I really like manifestation more. I really like the tangible. And we say, we know you do, that's why you're here. The tangible is important. But you've got to figure out how to get there from there. Sometimes we just want to say, you can't get there from here. You can't get to where you want to be as you are beating the drum of the absence of it. You just cannot get there. You are defying the laws of the universe. You've got to find a way of no longer doing that thing you do that keeps you from getting the things you want. And how do you know when you're doing the thing that you do that is keeping you from getting the things that you want? You feel negative emotion. You don't feel satisfaction. And how do you know when you are allowing your thoughts to turn to things? How do you know when you are in a vibrational state of being where you are allowing a vibration to be received by you in thought form? How do you know that you're there and ready? How do you know that you're ready? You feel satisfied where you are. And what keeps you from being satisfied? Getting ahead of yourself and demanding that it be ready before you're ready for it to be ready. It would be like putting a seed of corn in the ground and waiting for 10 or 15 minutes, squirt a little water on it, and then feel disappointed that the corn hasn't come up out of the ground and yielded an ear to you. And if you're like most humans, after about a week of that, you just dig it up and eat it, or call it a failed experience. You sometimes refuse to be satisfied in the process as it is coming. And so there are some things that we want to call to your attention today. We want you to leave this gathering understanding the value and the satisfaction of being willing to be ready to be ready. You got to get ready to be ready, to get ready, to be ready, to be ready, to be ready, to be ready. And you have to be satisfied in the getting ready part and not need to jump all the way over to the fully manifested part. That really is all that is required, because if you could understand, and sometimes you do, that your desire in all of its fullness is in the process of becoming, and that it is yielding itself to you, sometimes even though you don't know that it is. Sometimes even though you don't know that it is. Sometimes things look like they are going wrong. When they are not going wrong, they are going into a point of clarity for you. It's a way for you to reevaluate something. It's a way for you to come to a new conclusion about something. By diminishing the bigness of it, by acknowledging the simpleness of it, by reminding yourself that the creation of a castle and a button is exactly the same thing. It just depends on whether you're focused on the castle or the button. But just the fact that you call it the big money means that you have a vibrational barricade between the receiving of it and where it stands. It's big money, which means big. In the expression big, you mean harder to achieve, or you mean rarer, or you mean more special stuff I need to do. Abraham, I've been hearing you for years. I come with a couple of questions every year, gave me the same answer, but I need a different answer this year because I want the big money, not just the money. I was laid off, and I admit now I'm not laid off. And that consistent smaller money has been coming, and I like it. Don't get me wrong, I like it just fine. I like it, but I really want that hard to get stuff. I really want to get that stuff that hardly anybody gets. I want that really hard to get stuff. So could we have a more private meeting where you where you don't tell us how to get the simple stuff, but where you tell us how to get the big stuff? We're making fun of the idea that big things are more difficult to create. Big things are easier to create because you think about them more. Big things are easier to create because there's more life stream going to them. There's more attention from non-physical on them. But what trips you up in the big is that in the acknowledging that it's a big thing, you've got a bigger resistance. So you've just got to find a way of softening that resistance. But here's the thing. If you can hear this, then you're off and running. If you can wake up every morning and think the thoughts you want to think, then nothing can keep you from anything.
Okay, thank you.
But if you're waking up and your thoughts are contained by the manifestation, then you can't move on where you are. Because if it's about earning an effort, then you're right. You're limited to how much you can do. You're limited to how many things you can accomplish, or to how many people that you can convince about the value of what you're offering. But when you understand that it's not about earning, it's about receiving. And it's not about effort, it's about vibration. So it's not about doing, it's about thinking. And it's not even so much about being aware of your thought as it is being aware of how you feel when you think the thought. Now you've got the formula. Well, what you're wanting to do is raise your appreciation of your knowledge of the energy and raise your appreciation of your vision. In other words, it really is as simple, and you sort of have to figure out how to work this out. It really is as simple as if your desire or dream, goal, if it pleases you when you think about it, then you're in the right vibrational stance. But if it feels like disappointment, or it feels like a challenge, or it feels like something that you haven't figured out yet, or it feels like a dilemma, or it feels like injustice because you see others have figured it out and you haven't. So you really have to think and feel and think and feel. So what you do is you dream a little about what you're wanting. The thing that trips a lot of people up is that they want a state of being. Like they will say, I desire enough financial abundance that I can do whatever I want. And we want to say, you got it backwards. It is the doing what you want that causes the alignment with the vortex, that takes away the resistance, that then brings the abundance to support whatever you want. The money isn't the means to the happy life. The happy life is the means to the money. But how can I feel happy in this moment when I'm working harder than I want to work on things that I would rather not do? And we say, because you have the ability to think around it. First, you have the ability to appreciate more of what you are doing. You have the ability to say more positive things than negative things. You have the ability to look for more positive aspects and fewer negative aspects. You have the ability to appreciate others more than criticizing them. You have the ability to appreciate yourself more than criticizing yourself. You have the ability to focus even when you're just looking at what is, in a much more productive, meaning, good-feeling way. And if all you were doing was just looking into your now for things that you could appreciate or praise, you would shift your vibration enough that it would raise to the vibrational level of what's in your vortex, of what you've been dreaming about. But what's tripping you up, and it trips almost everybody up, is this comparison between where I am and where I want to be. So what you have to start doing is you have to say, I'm going to go there in my mind. And we know that has to be incredibly annoying, but that is the path. Because if you can't get there in your mind, you can't get there.
Right.
And what humans keep demanding of us, they keep saying, I don't want to get there in my mind. That feels foolish. I want to be there so I can get there.
Right.
If I was just there, then I'd get there. And we say, there's a journey between where you are and where you want to be. It is not a work journey. It's not an effort journey. It's not a getting hired journey. It's not even a great idea for a great product that the world wants journey. It's a vibrational journey. It's the difference between praising and criticizing. It's the difference between smiling and frowning. It's the difference between dragging yourself across the parking lot and skipping yourself across the parking lot. It's the difference between loving and hating. It's the difference between feeling good more of the time and feeling bad more of the time. That's the only difference, because you've been living life and you've put it into the vortex. Your vortex is full of everything that you want, and it is a vibrational speed that you usually aren't at, because you are like most people. You are observing what is instead of dreaming about what will be.